Good evening, Vancouver, and welcome back to Canucks After Dark, the April 3rd edition, the first edition since the Vancouver Canucks have been officially eliminated from playoff contention. You know what that means, Clay? That means
what is it?
Technically meaningful games in April this year. I know it doesn't feel like it, but the Canucks did somehow survive all the way up until April. But as always, joined by Canuck Clay. How are you doing today, Clay?
I am great despite that sadness you just shared with me. Yes, I was aware, obviously, that they were eliminated before December this year, unfortunately. But
yeah, they started the season 05-2. They were done in October, really.
Yeah. And it's funny. We'll talk about the team, but I was just going to say very quickly, they had a rough week, actually. They had 3 losses. 2 of them they got points and 1 of them they didn't. So both of us got throttled on our predictions, but I know we can ram through the games. We can talk about bigger. Now it's about looking towards the future. I know that's kind of one of the things we want to talk about tonight, but overall, all to say, I'm doing just fine. Looking forward to a shorter week in terms of studying and work because it's Easter week. So a couple holidays in there. We get both Good Friday and Easter Monday off. I presume you don't get Easter Monday off.
Correct. I get Friday.
Okay. Yes. Good. And by the way, just before we get going, Lucas, thank you for the donation. April 2 was a great night off the ice. Got a good reason why. I think you might be referring to Autism Acceptance Night at the arena, which I think Lucas was a big part of. Regardless, Lucas, thank you for the support. Thank you for the donation. Yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was pretty mediocre week on the ice for the Canucks. 3 losses, technically 2 points, although points are not what we're looking for at this stage of the season. It's still funny looking at the standings and being like, oh yeah, the Canucks are sort of in that mix of like potential bottom feeders, and they have still a 16-point lead on San Jose and 9-point gap on Montreal. The Canucks just weren't bad enough this year, but 3 losses. We got a couple of little storylines, right? Akito Hirose getting his first little taste of NHL action.
And you nailed the pronunciation, Parker. That's why you're my favorite part. Yeah, that was good, man. You just nailed it.
I would say I've been practicing, but no, it was but really, I mean, we're at the point in the year, and it's sort of been this way all year, where once again the team's been out of it, right? I mean, we've been doing this for almost 2 years now. Canucks After Dark. It was April 12th, 2021, and it's now April 3rd, 2023. So technically next week will be about the 2-year. And wow, it feels like we're in the same spot, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not about patting ourselves on the back. Well, I am a little bit, but today, stick with me, everyone that's watching right now and listening. We haven't had a lot of good things to talk about. There's certainly been storylines to talk about, but just imagine how much even more happy and excited Parker and I would be if we were talking about, who are we going to face in the first round of the playoffs? Or, hey, maybe we might have to cancel a show because we're both going to a playoff. Whatever. We're nowhere close to any of that just yet. And I can't wait for the day, Parker, where we actually have to make those type of decisions for one of our shows because we're going to a playoff game. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh, it'd be a blast. And this show would come second. I would be I am at the first playoff game the Canucks have. Whenever that day does come, I will be there. But it's been sort of another year of heartbreak. The team's 1 game under 500. They were above 500, or at 500. I don't think they were above, but they climbed all the way back to 500 under Rick Tocchet. And there's been really only a couple of storylines, right? There's obviously the Akito Hirose, who I mentioned. There is talk of captaincy going to next year, and feels like Quinn Hughes' name keeps popping up when it comes to that. And there's sort of the comeback tour somewhat of JT Miller, who has been quite a bit better lately, and obviously Thatcher Demko, who has taken a big step back towards being who he was compared to the start of this season.
Yes, great point. So there have indeed been storylines, and I'll get to one thing I want to bring up real quick, but I want to acknowledge it's weird. It happens on my show too. We can't see membership messages or gifting inside of StreamYard, our platform, but I can see them on the feed. So Peter, thank you for using your membership, your acknowledgement. You've been around for 4 months. Carol, you've been around for 8 months, which is awesome. And then Shiraz actually gifts a membership, and it goes to Erwin. So thank you, Shiraz, for your support as well. Very good. Very good. Here's my thought, Parker. Before this week's games, we were talking and we were almost lamenting, oh, the Canucks are 10th from the bottom. They could actually fall out and go to 12th from the bottom because they keep winning. And then if they're 12th, if they win the lottery, they can only move up to second and not even first, blah, blah, blah. 11th was the magic number. But with these 3 losses, they're kind of, I wouldn't say comfortably, but with only 5 games to go or 6 games to go, they're in 10th. There's no way they're going to catch 9th because they're 6 points below. But they might not even catch the teams above them. So they might finish in 10th.
They're only 4 points ahead of Philly.
Yeah.
Philly's a potential drop candidate. Like they could go behind Philly. The problem is though that you have 3 teams that are only 2 points ahead, right? Ottawa's sort of a buffer because it's 5 points away.
Yeah.
But Detroit, St. Louis, Washington at 22, 23, 24.
Yeah.
You know, a good week puts you ahead of all 3 of them, and suddenly, you know, you are, you know, like you said, 22nd, and really, you know, you're picking 11th most likely, maybe 12th.
Right. That's true.
But as of right now,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, as of right now, they're 2 points back of them, with the ability to fall behind Philly with a bad 2 weeks here on out.
And then we did pass St. Louis for a couple of weeks, and then St. Louis actually somehow, you think we went on a hot streak at that time. They're 6-2-2, and they're fast.
Yeah, they are right at 500, 35, 35, and 7. Yeah, they're hanging on. I mean, you know, Arizona's doing it right. They've won 2 of their last 10. Anaheim's won 1 of their last 10, falling below Columbus at this point. Anaheim is making a real push towards the bottom because it was Chicago Columbus for
it was
the longest time, really, right? With a hint of San Jose in there as well. And Anaheim has really taken it to the next level with 8 straight losses alongside Chicago. And it's a real race to the bottom in this one.
Isn't it funny how we play Seattle tomorrow, who just thumped Arizona 8-1 tonight? So Seattle's trying to win, not just the Pacific, but they're trying to win the Western Conference. Then we play the worst team in the entire NHL on Thursday night, Chicago. And then we play against a Calgary team that's fighting for a wild card. So we get actually by definition, there can only be 2 extremes, but basically we get all 3 extremes. We get 3 scenarios. We get the team that's fighting for first overall or in the conference. We get the team that's fighting for worst overall in the league, and then we get a team that's fighting to get in the playoffs. So 3 interesting games coming up.
Yeah, the Flames have really done everything they could to have stayed out of the playoffs at this point. And then the Canucks. You look at the last 3 games. They get the Kings, another sort of top team in the Pacific, and Ducks and Coyotes, like 2 bottom feeders. So. Yes. You know, you look at the schedule here on out, like the Canucks are probably the favorites in 3 of the 6 games, which isn't ideal. I mean, it's funny. You look back at the stats that's been sort of floating around is back in 2014, 2015, Jamie Benn winning the Art Ross with 87 points. Yes. Right. And you look back at that and people are wondering, well, why did that happen? Right. Why is scoring so much more prevalent now? When you look back, that was the Connor McDavid draft year. Right. There was like 8 teams genuinely trying to lose every game, which hasn't happened this year to the same extent. But, you know, you look back at that, like, you didn't have, 2 guys on a team putting up 120 points each. Like you have McDavid and Draisaitl doing this year. And it's a real race to the bottom right now that the Canucks need to find a way down a little bit further. I'd like, 25th. Is okay. It would be 8th overall by default. I think that's a fine place to be. Yeah. But you love to see them find a way behind Philly, or if they can find a way to, get lucky and have the lottery balls go their way.
If you had to pick between one of the 3, who's going to be the suckiest of the suck between Chicago, Anaheim, and Columbus? Who's actually going to wind up 3rd overall? Worst overall.
I think it's Chicago. I mean, you look at based on games played, Anaheim, Chicago wins their next game. They're there, but Chicago has lost 8 straight, and they got, like you said, thumped tonight. Or no, it was Arizona that got killed tonight.
Arizona, yes.
You're right. But Yeah, it's Chicago has really found a way to lose. Anaheim's won one of their last 10. I mean, you could reasonably see either of these teams winning one game here on out, right? 56 points might be the barrier. And at that case, Chicago has the edge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I would hate. That would be the worst case scenario. Even though they're not in division,
Yeah.
I think Columbus is best case if it's not Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
Out of the conference. Montreal will be fine too. But yeah, Chicago being sort of a team that we don't like, Anaheim and San Jose being in division, you want it to stay away from those two teams.
You bring up a great point that I want to jump on after I acknowledge Lucas's $11 donation. Thank you, Lucas. Let's give him some love. Heard reports that NHLPA are unhappy with the Coyotes and the ASU arrangement. If Arizona arena vote fails, could you see the team bolting elsewhere? And could the NHLPA force a move?
It feels like this is like so overdue, right?
Yeah.
Anything I hear about the Arizona Coyotes moving, to me, feels impossible. Because they have had so many chances, right? With them not paying rent at Gila River Arena, with, having 4,000 people showing up to each game and them selling tickets for $6, right? The team being abysmal for as long as I can remember, really. And they're still there, right? Gary Bettman seems to find a way to keep the team in Arizona. I don't think they're going to find a way out.
Yeah, I agree with you. Bettman, with Arizona moving, Bettman would basically have to admit that he failed at something. We know he doesn't like doing that. No. Basically, yeah. I was going to ask you. So, this Connor Bedard thing's interesting. Let's say, for instance, that the Canucks do not win the lottery, so he's going to a different team. Do you look at, I want to see this guy play against Vancouver a lot, even though he might kill us? Do you look at it, I hope he goes to a big market team like a Montreal, like a Chicago, so it helps bring a lot of energy to not only that market, that team? Do you want him to go to a lesser market team so it could help them? Or do you want him to go far away from the Pacific Conference so we actually don't see him a lot per year? What do you want?
So we get to watch Connor McDavid quite a bit here, right?
Yep.
And it's a blast. Like, genuinely, it's fun to watch even when he's destroying our team because he is phenomenal. However, I also like watching Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin. They are not close, right? It's kind of nice seeing them once a year and having that be a bit of a spectacle. So when I look at everything, the only thing I care about is the Canucks winning, right? Now, if the Canucks have to play Connor Bedard 5 times less per year because he is in Columbus instead of Arizona, that sounds great to me. I don't want him to be in Chicago. I don't think they deserve any good fortune, really. Ship him off to somewhere like Columbus, put him and Johnny Gaudreau together, and that would be a heck of a unit. But all I care about hockey-wise is seeing my team win, and having Bedard not here would be the most beneficial.
Helps that. Okay. That's a very good, honest answer, because it would be very easy to say, I want him on a California team so we can see him, 2 or 3 times a season in here as opposed to just once. Okay. I'm with that. I'll go with you.
Yeah, no, I don't want to see him at all. I feel like, especially because he's from here, that feels like the most obvious Canucks thing, that he would get 4 points every single time he played against the Canucks, and we just have to deal with it.
Yes. Good point too. That's right, because that'll be the story every time he comes through. And yes, more. If you're a betting man, you probably bet on him crushing us as opposed to us completely shutting him down 4 times a year or whatever.
You're taking the over every time he's in town. The over set at 3.5. You're still taking it because he's gonna be really good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we got a few more weeks to worry about that, or until the whatever call it, the lottery. What do you call it? Lottery?
Draft lottery.
Draft lottery. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes.
3 hockey games to go back on this week. 3 hockey games that I did not see any of.
Okay, great. This will be fun.
So it's all you. I'm sure you can run through them really quickly. Canucks Blues 6-5 OT loss.
Yes, this was probably the first game where we started to see a lot of the Canucks defensive structure. Everything they've worked really hard under Rick Tocchet to try and establish maybe a step back here. And if you like goals, this was a game to watch again in St. Louis. It had everything from Hughes to Hughes scoring to some breakaways, Kuzmenko scoring. And admittedly, I can't remember a lot about the game aside from there are a lot of goals. And I can't remember. I do remember. Oh yes, no wonder. I was at bowling. This is Tuesday night, right?
I think so.
Yes. It was Tuesday night. So I remember watching this game when it was on the monitor, and it felt like. Why is my phone going off? My phone just started talking to me. This was exciting because you just had a feeling that the Canucks were going to tie it up. They were losing 5-2 in this game, and then the Besser scores, and then Kuzmenko scores, and then of course Quinn Hughes scores his second of the night as you have the net empty. So you work so hard, you don't even know if you want the Canucks to get points anymore, likely not. And then they lose it 28 seconds into overtime because Brock Besser and Tyler Myers never put them out in overtime at the same time ever again. It's because Quinn Hughes has a skate issue. That's why Tyler Myers, Parker was out there 28 seconds into overtime.
Yeah, and it's Brock Besser, notoriously slow. Tyler Myers, notoriously slow, right? You're going to run into some trouble, especially in overtime. Like that's the worst time to have them both out there. This was the Quinn Hughes game, right? I mean, he played 28 and a half minutes.
Yep.
Which is absurd. Like you said, the game ended 28 seconds into overtime. So only 28 seconds of that time can be not in regulation. Like you just said, it wasn't. So Quinn Hughes playing 28 minutes in regular time, which, you look at it and you start to think, okay, why is that happening, right? Why is Rick Tocchet, who has the most job security out of anyone not named John Cooper in the NHL right now? He just got hired, right? They're not firing him, right? Why is he playing Quinn Hughes 28 minutes? Why is he playing JT Miller 22 minutes? Elias Pettersson 20 minutes. Brock Besser got 22 minutes that game.
Yeah.
Like it's a little bit silly. Quinn Hughes went off that game. He had the tying goal late. He had the first goal early. I think he had a 3-point night. Absolutely fantastic, and he has continued to get better and better, amazingly. But yeah, the Canucks, it's worst case, right? You have Quinn Hughes tying it late. It's kind of exciting. You're like, that's fun. Quinn Hughes scored, and they just lose anyways 30 seconds into OT, and you get none of the benefit, and you add a point to a tanking team, which isn't ideal.
Yes, and two other points about this game. This is the game that I know you saw the highlights. Parker, it was Kuzmenko's second goal. That beautiful no look from Petey. It was that give and go where Petey. It wasn't actually a backhand no look. It was a forehand no look.
Give and go where he sort of did one of these. And,
did exactly that. But then the negative that came out of this game after 3 decent games, 2 actually really good ones for Philip Hronek, then 1 average one. This game, he was bad. He was -3. Him and Brisebois did not have a good game together. And this ended up being Hronek's last game of the season for the Canucks.
Yeah, that's another storyline I didn't mention, right? Them deciding to shut him down to strengthen the shoulder. Because it, I guess, good enough to play. And I think Rick Tocchet said, if it was playoffs, we'd keep him in. But obviously this team's not in the playoffs. So that trade's looking a little scary, right? And like a shoulder's not like a super key part to a defenseman, right? Like if you think about it in the long term, like a nagging shoulder injury wouldn't make them a bad defenseman, but it would probably stop them from getting a few points that they might otherwise. But you never want to have like your big key marquee addition that you made and you traded half or most of the Bo Horvat return for to be already injured and already have a bit of a setback seemingly.
Yes, exactly. Although if he does come back strong and healthy, then we're not even worried about this next season. But we've got to wait all summer for it. The interesting thing, Parker, you mentioned the Horvat trade. So as I see the Islanders, they might get caught by both Florida and Pittsburgh. So the Islanders may fall out of a playoff spot, but so they might pick anywhere between 13th and 16th. So it's not top 12 protected though. So then of course that pick goes to whoever we traded to. Oh yeah, Detroit. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the Islanders have been an interesting one, right? You look at
Yeah.
Bo Horvat's stats since he's gone there, and they haven't been good, right? But
Yeah.
the team has been winning more games. But now you're looking at it, they've lost their last 2. They've only won 5 of their last 10. They're kind of just floundering a little bit in place.
Yep.
And yeah, Florida and Pittsburgh each with a game in hand, and they each play tomorrow, I imagine. Pittsburgh plays tomorrow. Yeah, they both play tomorrow. Florida has Buffalo. Pittsburgh has the Devils. So not gimmies, but as of this time tomorrow, the New York Islanders could be third in the wild card race.
Wow.
Right? And you have Florida, who's won their last 3. You have Pittsburgh, who's been in tough lately, but again, I'm never counting out that Pittsburgh roster as long as, Crosby's there. Very reasonable that the Islanders could fall below Florida. I mean, Buffalo is 6 points back, but they do have 3 games in hand, right? They can get hot and pull it up too. And you could see Florida fall, the Islanders fall down to, 18th, 19th, 20th in the league. And that pick be, like you said, maybe 12th to 16th, or maybe they win the lottery and that pick goes unprotected next year. And that could be kind of a nightmare scenario for the Canucks.
Yep. But we'll worry about that when it happens. But fascinating. Yeah, you have a 3-team battle for 2 spots in both conferences. In the East, as you said, it's Pittsburgh and Florida trying to track down the Islanders. And in the West, we know it's Calgary and Nashville, who's faltered a little bit, trying to track down Winnipeg. Great races in both conferences. Just wish the Canucks were one of them. Yeah.
Especially the Flames. Like, the Flames have been struggling so much to get involved. Like, they have been on the edge of a playoff spot for seemingly a month and a half and just keep winning 5 out of every 10 games, getting an OT point here or there, and just sticking right on the edge. Now they've finally won 4 in a row. Like, they're finally seemingly pulling it together a little bit, and they're back in the mix, right? 2 points back of Winnipeg, but each of them only have 5 games to play, right? We're running out of time. We are 2 weeks away from the end of the regular season.
Yeah.
It's funny to look at this and be like, oh yeah, and Toronto and Tampa Bay have clinched playing against each other, even though we knew that was going to happen for the last 3 months.
Exactly.
The dichotomy of that is very interesting.
Yep. And a great segue, speaking of Calgary. So that's why they were so excited when they won that game against Vancouver Pride Night, Rogers Arena, the Flames beating the Canucks in OT, and they were celebrating. And by the way, Parker, I think I've asked you this before. It's fascinating. Whenever a team wins in overtime, I'm always curious as to, I think I've asked you this, do you go and hug the goalie or do you go and hug the OT goal scorer? When you pour off the bench and you see the team, like the players kind of disperse?
It's very dependent on the game. This game, you go to the goal scorer.
Yeah, because
right? Markstrom didn't have a great night. But a lot of times what happens in OT, and just because OT is so many like 2-on-1s back and forth, the winning goalie probably made a really good save at some point in OT.
Yeah.
As a defenseman, I'm a big goalie guy, right? I will go to the goalie unless the guy who scored turns right back to the bench and is coming there, then everyone's going. But yeah, no, if the goalie did something big to keep us in the game, I go goalie. And usually away from the rest of the team. Most of everyone's going to go to the goal scorer. But you gotta, your goalie kept you in there usually. But not in this one. I mean, the Flames had 41 shots to the Canucks 20. Again, the Canucks didn't deserve to be in. You had Jacob Markstrom, reprising his Canucks secret agent duties there a little bit, helping them out, sort of the wrong way. But
yes,
it's a funny one, right? You look at, Tyler Toffoli had 2 goals. Even Troy Stetcher scored his second goal of the season, right? Sort of a perfect storm for the Canucks to lose.
Yeah, I joked around that Chris Tanev was just waiting in the tunnel, coming off IR just to get in the, join the party. So two storylines on this one. One of them was the first goal for Aiden McDonough, a really nice goal. Actually, it was a really good play. Stanika behind the net, and Dries does this like no look pass to Aiden McDonough, and he puts it in. Very happy, very excited. Jack Rathbone, his childhood friend, first guy to hug him. Kyle Burrows gets the goal. Yeah, so Rathbone, Burrows, Stanika, Dries, and McDonough. Those were the guys that were on the ice. McDonough scores. Really, really cool story. Not sure if you saw that highlight. And then Parker, the one that everyone's talking about is the fact that that Calgary guy high sticked himself, yet PD got a penalty.
Right, and the whole linesman thing where linesmen can
Yes.
technically only call it if it's going to be 4, but the linesman called it 2, and it's, technically illegal. It's just NHL things, right? Things that are going to happen in this league. I also want to give some, just a bit of a shout out to the depth, really, right? I mean, you have that McDonough goal with Dryden getting points on that. You have Neil Zaman getting more points. He's been sort of racking them up lately. I think he's up to 15 points on the year in 62
Your guy.
games.
Yeah.
My guy. I think he's had quite a bit of a bounce back since going back to the AHL, which I've enjoyed seeing. So it's good to see some of the depth get a little bit more involved. And even though the team's not winning, which is kind of a good thing, it's nice to see.
For sure. Now, did you either in real time or in highlight see that so you kind of explained it well already that technically a linesman cannot call a minor penalty. It's got to be double minor or more. Yet this was a minor penalty that led to the tying goal.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's such a small rule, and the way I've always known it, I didn't know linesmen could call high sticks at all. I thought linesmen were limited to too many men and like general bench minors, like too many men delay of game because they might see it and the ref might not, but they usually confer and the ref would call it. And I thought they could have input on majors, but I didn't know they could call high sticking double minors, but not minor. That is such a weird rule.
Yeah.
But also, it's such a weird line to draw where you're like, okay, a linesman can only call offsides and icing, except they can call too many men, which kind of makes sense. It's a bench minor, it's a change. It's really just, can you count to 6 and are you paying attention? But the only a 4-minute high stick is such a weird limiter, right? Like, it's like, okay, only if there's blood.
Yes.
Really, right? Like, oh, he high sticked him. Hold on. First, I am a linesman. I have to go check if he's bleeding before I can tell the ref that it's a penalty.
But
it's
if he is,
rule,
yeah.
But technically, it's the rule, and the Canucks technically, got the short end of the stick there, and it's kind of fair for people to be a bit up in arms about that.
Yeah. So it goes into overtime, and yet another breakdown. Well, it's interesting. I don't know if you heard talk about this. It was Neil Zaman it's Dakota Joshua and someone else, Di Giuseppe. It was Di Giuseppe and Joshua, Tocchet's two favorite players, basically, on the ice for that game-winning goal against. And then he basically said, if they scored, which they had a chance to do, I'd be a hero. But now it looks bad because those guys were out there. But all my top guys were tired. So for those that didn't want the Canucks to get that extra point, you must have been very happy then. Although Joshua did have a couple chances to bang it in from the doorstep for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right.
I don't know.
We go to the third game of the week.
Let's do it.
Kings Canucks. This was last night. A weird one. A home game that started at 5:00 between two Pacific Division teams. Do you know why that was?
I don't think I've ever seen a Sunday nighter yet. Like later, I don't think I have to look. I don't remember a Sunday 7 now that I think about it. Yeah.
All right. Either way, I didn't see this one, but I did hear it was one of the most boring games of the season. So
it was rough.
Let's get your take on that.
Yeah, I can make this one pretty fast. It was pretty rough. Not a lot of excitement. At least the Canucks had more than 4 shots on goal, whatever they had the last time they played LA. But remember, they were the LA haven't beaten the Canucks in a few seasons. And Besser scores on a rebound and starts it off. He's now quietly up to 17 goals this season. He could get 20. And then it becomes the Alex Alfalo show somehow with a nice snapshot, 4-on-4, a power play that he outfought Ethan Bear and Pettersson in the crease. A Kaliev goal that was unfortunate, just a bad bounce off of Rathbone, and then an empty netter. And somehow they were able to do all that over 60 minutes. And it looked like a playoff team, Parker, easily handling a non-playoff team. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's the only real storyline for me is Brock Besser there, right? I mean, one, Phil DiGiuseppe, 10 points in 24 games. What's that, like 30-point pace? That's pretty good.
Yep.
And I could see him getting a little return next year. Brock Besser, again, the quietest 50-point season of all time, seemingly, where, everyone sort of has a negative opinion on his season, yet he has really turned it around from the beginning of the year to be to probably end the season around 60 points, potentially, maybe, 58, something along those lines, but he has been okay. Again, like we said, Akito Hirose being the sort of only positive from this game. Looking at the time on ice, seeing Ethan Bear only get 14 minutes, Aiden McDonough being basically stable to the bench. While Quinn Hughes, in a losing effort that was, a pretty big losing effort, playing once again almost 30 minutes, 29-38. Just seemingly running Quinn Hughes into the ground for no reason at this point.
And I'm glad you mentioned Hirose, who I know we were joking around about the pronunciation last week when he signed. But yes, 1 week after signing, he gets into the game. And I'm trying to be very objective and not biased here just because he's half Japanese like me. He was actually quite good. He's a smart, you can tell he's a very smart player. He makes great decisions with the puck. He was paired with Tyler Meyer, so you had to play smart. And there's only one time maybe he got beat off the rush, but other than that, he was making just smart little, dumps behind his own net for his defense partner, or just taking that extra split second. In the third period, he made a beautiful pass through the neutral zone, a long pass out of his zone. So yes, it's only one game. It's only 14 minutes, but I think he showed a lot of poise. And then I don't know if you heard his post game. Some people were calling him very almost cocky, like the way he answered, but he was basically saying it was just another game. Oh, well, what about lining up against Kopitar and Doughty? And, well, yeah, that was kind of cool. But then I remember just another game. I play hockey. This is what I've been doing all my life. I actually liked it. It showed me that he wasn't too caught up by the moment. But I know there are a couple people who are saying that he's already acting entitled and acting kind of whatever.
Yeah,
let the guy have his
that's the way to do it, right? If
Yeah.
you go in there and be like, I'm gonna have Anze Kopitar coming in on me one-on-one, you're gonna get in your own head. You're gonna play terribly. But if you think about it as just these are just guys. I'm playing my game. I think to myself, I played a drop-in against some guys who had played in the WHL at some point, right?
Yep.
And it's they're a million times better than me.
Yep.
But if I just go out there and try my hardest and be in the right spot, I'll do okay. And they'll score 2 while I'm out there, but whatever, right?
Yep.
It's the same idea. You go out there and you know your game better than anyone else. Changing it to try to adapt to these situations is just going to put you in a worse spot. To hear that he sort of went out there, did his thing, having a 0 in the plus minus, not too bad against a playoff bound Kings team.
And I know it's so early to talk about next year. We know Hirose could only sign a 1 year because of his age, so they're going to have to negotiate with him already in a few weeks. But now, let's presume that OEL does come back and remembers how to play hockey, and there's, of course, Quinn Hughes. Now already, you're looking at Wolanin, Rathbone, and Hirose as potential third pairing left shot guys, and that's not even considering that the Canucks go out and get someone else. I don't know.
Yeah, and the thing I always like to bring up going into, like you said, training camp's 5.5 months away, right? We're not close, but the ideal world is that you have sort of your top 16 guys on your team somewhat locked in, right? Your top 12 forwards, your top 4D being good players. The rest of the way down, that's where you want competition, right? Because if you can have 6 defensemen that are genuine sort of tweeners between NHL, AHL level, well, the odds that one of them takes a step forward and can be a genuine number 6 guy in the NHL, it happens quite often that one guy will step forward and you might get some good value out of that. So I don't hate that as an approach. That's how you get guys like Phil DiGiuseppe coming in and actually being fairly impressive, or Neil Zaman coming out of nowhere to actually get an NHL spot. You give those guys those chances. and you create that competition, right? Because if you think about the defense or even the offense, right, and you think of like the fourth line potential next year, there's the potential for free agents. There's still Sheldon Dries, Aiden McDonough, Jack Studnicka, Neil Zaman, Phil DiGiuseppe. Like there's a Dakota Joshua, a bunch of names that could all fit in on a fourth line, but only the best three will. And regardless of who it is, they're going to cost nothing on the cap. So it's better than paying Antoine Roussel, Jay Beagle, and Louis Eriksson, $12 million a year.
That was bad. That was very
bad. It was very bad. And then they made it worse by trading them all away.
Yes, but we won't revisit that. We want to be okay. We made it all 36 minutes in. I guess we should talk about our title topic.
Yes, I made that title up at the last second.
Okay, good.
There has been a lot of talk about Quinn Hughes, especially being sort of the front runner based on a lot of the media push. I think Rick Dollywell had a tweet yesterday that said, I keep hearing that, from pretty reliable sources that Quinn Hughes is who they're pushing to be the next captain. We've, at least myself, have been sort of bit in on the Elias Pettersson train.
Yep.
Because seemingly in times where the team has been abysmal, Elias Pettersson has been sort of that beacon of light and has been very good and seems to really, put the team on his back at times. And looking at Quinn Hughes and really the limited experience we have of, Quinn Hughes interactions, right? It's all the photos of him looking sad. Really, at all times.
It's weird.
And him talking to media
Today's hits from Apple Music.
Hold on a sec. What the heck? Alexa, be quiet. What?
You got a ghost?
Yeah, my phone went off. That thing went off. And usually it's my watch that goes off. So I'm just waiting for that to happen. Then we'll have the trifecta. Sorry about that. I don't know what's.
That's all good. No, I was just saying, Quinn Hughes always seems very morose, right? Like very sort of down and quiet. But everything we hear about him internally is that, he's a real leader in the room. Yeah. And whether it's the Pride Night statements from last week or everything he says, everything he says seems to be the right thing. Thinking about it more and more, like, would I be upset if Quinn Hughes was the captain of this team? No, like that would be fine. And I would think, Elias Pettersson's the guy, but if Elias Pettersson's more of the mindset of, nope, doesn't need to be me. I just want to go out there and put up, 100 points. That's fine by me.
Oh, there's so much in there. And I did listen to the entire thing you said, despite, my speaker starting to instantaneously start my dance party here. I can't add much more than that. Actually, you nailed it so well. I'm with you. We're together. We've been talking about PD being the captain for the past, and then he did that interview at All-Star break, and it's not like he fully dismissed it, but it's not like he fully embraced it either. He almost basically said, we'll talk about it in the off season. I just want to focus on the team right now. And I agree with you. I could see him saying, and saying it respectfully too, I'm good. I actually don't need it. I'm going to play hard. I'm going to respect whoever is the captain. I actually don't need it. It won't be a slight for me. In fact, it'll be a burden relief for me if it's not me. Whereas I think Quinn Hughes, he won't come out and say, oh, I want it. But I think for him, just the way, I just think he's a very bright guy. Not saying PD isn't, but he's very bright, very articulate. And he's just got that demeanor that you kind of joked about, but truly that my dog just got run over face. He can handle anything. I actually think he can handle anything. I really do.
Yeah. It is amazing that he never looks happy. Like, it's actually astonishing. I really wouldn't hate the idea. Coach Rob says, what about JT Miller? Obviously Miller's the one with the, that's part of this team for the longest going forward.
Yeah.
And obviously there is talk about that. Where would you be on, JT Miller being a potential guy there?
If you asked me 3 months ago after he wanted to decapitate Colin Dilly, I would have said no. But I think I've seen enough under Rick Tocchet, especially, and I'm not saying Rick Tocchet's going to be here for all 7 years of JT's contract, but he might be here for the next 2 or 3. I could see them working well together. I could see Tocchet really leaning in on him. And I think he's, obviously, Rutherford and Alvin drew their line in the sand or whatever, or claimed Miller over Horvat, and now we know why all that happened. Having said that, I'm not convinced that everyone, I don't know this to be true, but I'm not convinced if there was even small dissension in the locker room, would it be because it was guys that liked Miller versus guys that didn't like Miller? Whereas Petey and Hughes, I think you might not be best friends with them, but you really respect and you really get that they are phenomenal players. And JT Miller's a good player too. So, but I still put him as number 3 in that ranking.
Yeah, Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson are the least offensive options, right? There's no Canucks fan who looks at, I mean, except for a couple who might be, of the Don Cherry, fandom and sort of vibe, but like, oh, Elias Pettersson, like he's soft and he's tiny or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But no, you look at it and like, Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, they're both just great players that haven't really done anything wrong, right?
Yep.
JT Miller had a couple of months where he was public enemy number 1, right? Where he seemingly wasn't giving any effort, where he was underperforming. And now that has turned. And, JT Miller really seems to have these ebbs and flows to his game where, he's either, hated or loved. That I feel like having him as the captain seems, maybe not like the best idea, right? It's not as much of a slam dunk as in either Quinn Hughes or Elias Pettersson, because if they named Quinn Hughes captain tomorrow, people would look at that and be like, oh, well, Elias Pettersson was there, and then Elias Pettersson would come forward and be like, nope, he has my support, we're good. And everyone would be like, all right, cool, right? Whereas JT Miller gets to see, and everyone's like, oh, well, what is Petey gonna think, right? They're, it's kind of silly, but PR wise, it's probably a lot easier to go the Hughes or Pettersson route.
Right. And Shannon says Petey is really great with the media and Hughes is not that great with the media. Hughes always looks so sad and Petey is so upbeat. So I will say this, Shannon. Yes, we agree that Hughes looks so sad. But I think if you listen, when I listen to their answers, I actually think Hughes's answers are more insightful. Now, whether that's because, quite frankly, his mastery of the English language is better. He's grown up speaking it, as opposed to Petey, who's probably it's not his first language, obviously, but he's still smart. I enjoy listening to Hughes, and I think he always adds a layer of, I kind of didn't think about that. So he might not be kind of as exuberant as Petey is, and I think Petey has gotten a lot better with the media, especially over this past year. So I hear what you're saying, Shannon, but I also think that don't confuse Hughes's disposition with a lack of ability to project in the media. But fair points, Shannon.
I fully agree. If you just go on and watch an Elias Pettersson press conference, then a Quinn Hughes press conference, Quinn Hughes, it's easy to lose it, right? You can be like, okay, I'm kind of tired and bored. But he genuinely does, say the right things a lot, and he's very smart, and he's a heck of a hockey player. It's he's never really had that leadership vibe, I think, to the outside world, but from everything we're hearing, internally, that he does have that. So yeah, I'd have no real complaints there.
Sure. A couple more captain things, and then we'll get to a couple other things. Japan Force says, no rush to name a captain, maybe even have all A's next year to develop and give more experience. And if they still need time, just keep the A's rolling. What do you think of that?
I'm usually good with that for a short period of time. I think having a captain is very ingrained in hockey culture, where Horvat was traded in February or whatever. Yep. You don't need to name a captain next day, right? You can wait till the start of next season. That's fine. But I don't know if you're a team that's in the middle of a rebuild and you're pulling, okay, we're going to draft Connor Bedard this year and he's going to be our captain in 2 years, whatever. Then sure, you can pull a Florida Panthers and name Derek McKenzie your captain, or like Luke Shen, right? Would have been an option. Or you just go without a captain and go 4 A's. This is a team that wants to be in the mix, whether the next year or the year after, right? They've made that very clear, and they've made it clear that they want to have a cohesive hockey team that, is going to be in it. And I think a part of that is having a captain, right? It's having a leader of the ship that's going to say, all right, it is on me to get us to the playoffs, right?
Yep.
Now, whether that works or not, I don't know, but it just feels like that's sort of the the old school hockey way.
Yeah.
Most teams have captains, right? Probably all but I don't know, maybe like 6 or so right now. There's a reason for that. Whether it's a good reason or not, but it's sort of the way it goes.
Yeah, and this, yes. And I think the Vancouver Canucks, whether it was Bo, whether it was Henrik, whether it was Naslin, Linden, they're Luongo, they've always had a captain. They, unless they're transitioning, but that hasn't lasted longer till the end of the start of the next season. Yeah. Not everyone agrees with the discussion, but that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah,
You don't have to agree.
No, it's good. It's good. But I think it's awesome. Some of the comments. So I see you starred one. Anything else about captaincy you want to talk about real quick?
I don't think so. I think, if it's Petey, if it's Hughes, I don't really care. If it's nobody, I'll think that's kind of weird because you're going to name one of them the captain eventually, right?
Yeah.
Unless you go and sign some crazy free agent, but that seems unlikely. So
Yeah.
I don't really have a problem.
And I love when Bruce says this. He says, he said something like, if you were playing 30 minutes a game, you'd have a tired face. Yeah. If you were Hughes and you played half the game, you'd probably be too tired to put on a happy face too.
Yeah. And Peter said something earlier to the same sort of accord. If you're playing that many minutes, of course you're going to look sad and exhausted. Right. Yeah. Of course.
Very good. Very good. Okay, I see you started one about a guy. I'm not even going to try saying his name. I'll let you take this one.
Nikita Tolopala.
That's
my
not
guess. I don't even know if hopefully that was spelled right by whoever put that in. Nikito Tolopalo. 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 It's an O.
Okay.
Nikita Tolopalo. Born, his birthday is actually in 3 days. He will be turning 23. So a technically 23-year-old goaltending prospect from Belarus, who is 6'6", 229 pounds. So a big guy. Absolute and that's how goalies are nowadays, right? You got to be 6'5" if you want to be an NHL goalie. And has been kind of good, kind of bad throughout everything. Obviously undrafted. So what would be his draft year? That would be 2017, 2018 would be his draft year. On the under-20 team in Belarus, he had a 9-10 in only 10 games. Following year on the same under-20 Belarus team, he had an 891, but he played 42 games. Problem is, 891 save percentage, his team wasn't very good. He won 5 games, lost 28, which is tough. They went 0-4 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then the following year, 2019-2020, he played for Dynamo Minsk in the KHL, played 6 games there, went 2-2 with an 868, so not great. Also played some time in the Belarusian league and put up a 922 in 12 games. And then we go to 2 years ago, 2020-2021, put up a 897 in 3 games in the KHL, and then a 916 in 28 games in the Belarusian league, so he's very good in Belarus. And then he took the move to Sweden. So when he was 21, I guess he would have been, 21 years old. In his 21-year-old season, he played in the second-tier Swedish league, the Allsvenskan. Put up an 899 in 34 games, so pretty okay. And then saved his team from relegation. Played 6 games and put up a 951 in that series, so it was pretty clutch. And then this past year, 45 games in the Allsvenskan League, had a 924. Went 28-17. And then in 6 qualification games to move up to the SHL, they lost, but he did put up a 920 in those 6 games. So
Wow.
Seemingly a pretty decent goaltending prospect. Again, he's got the size, the height and the weight. He had a pretty good year last year. Again, a full workload, 45 games, a 924 in the second-tier Swedish league. Does that translate to the NHL? No. Does it translate to the AHL? Probably a bit lower than that. But either way, it's probably an Ian Clark bet. And to me, it's a free asset to throw onto the pile.
So the last 2 seasons, he's had a 920 or far better, correct?
Well, no, last year was an 899.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But in that relegation series, he had a 950 to keep his team in the Allsvenskan.
Okay. Well, so yeah, I obviously don't know much about him. I'm glad you ran through his stats and his bio. I think we've talked about Colin Delia as a UFA at the end of the season, and the Canucks always seem to have about 5 or 6 goalies at camp because you're going to have your starter in Demko. You're going to have 2 or 3 guys battling to back him up, as we had this year, and it was Martin that won it out of camp. And then you had Seelovs and Delia and DiPietro to start the season down. So yeah, you had 2 up the big club, 3 down in Abbotsford, so that makes a total of 5. So right now, it's Seelovs, it's Martin, it's Demko. You presume Delia's gone. It's this new guy, and then probably another veteran, right? That they'll bring it. Whether it's Delia or someone else, and now you're looking at 5 goalies already.
Yeah,
So,
and we're thinking about it for next year. We're probably thinking, Demko. Who do you think is backing up Demko? Do you go a veteran then to back up Demko? Do you move Seelovs up there?
Yeah, I think Martin's going to get. I actually think Martin's going to come back with a fury. I hope. I don't know if this team has written him off already because he hasn't played under Talkett yet, and because I still think you got to have Seelovs in Abbotsford for 1 more year. That's
I'd be
think.
fine with that. I mean, he just turned 22, right?
Yeah.
Spencer Martin. It's crazy to think Spencer Martin played 29 games for the Canucks this year.
Yikes.
And had an 871, and then he played 14 games in Abbotsford, had a 914. I don't know what they do, right? Spencer Martin technically under contract till next year, but he makes 762, right? He makes nothing.
Yeah.
on the cap.
Yes.
So you could very easily leave him in the AHL and pull a backup goalie. And if I'm thinking of a team that is desperate to make a playoffs, is desperate to get a couple of playoff games, you can't have a backup goalie playing 28 games in the year putting up an 870, right? You just can't. You need that goalie to steal. You need that goalie to win. Not every other game, but they need to win. If they're going to play 28 games, they got to win like 12.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
They got to be good enough to hold their own. That's not what Spencer Martin really was this year for the Canucks. It was last year, but again, he only played 6 games.
Yes.
So I could really see them saying, okay, well, what if we spend $2 million on a backup goalie, right? And sure, it's going to hurt us a bit, but maybe we have a backup goalie that puts up a 903, and it's a big upgrade over an 870. I definitely could see them going that route.
So here's one thing that we never really talked about. I know we're almost at the end, so we can't spend too much time. But weren't the signs for tanking already there, Parker, when Demko first got hurt? They, like any sane GM or would talent evaluator would look at Spencer Martin and Colin Delia and say, well, these guys might be warriors, but we kind of don't have a bona fide NFL. Oh, I know Colin Delia has been okay. I just said NFL, NHL backup. And I don't, to my knowledge, maybe because they were capped out, I don't think the Canucks even tried to bring another goalie in. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe they thought Demko was going to come back way sooner than he did, but I just thought their lack of urgency in bringing in another goaltender when Demko went down after December 1st. Maybe they were too far out of it. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe they're way too far out of it already. Yeah.
Yeah, they were probably down to like a 10% chance at that point of making the playoffs. So you can definitely see why they wouldn't. And it would have been, what are you going to do? You're going to go trade a second round pick for a backup or something?
Right.
It would be on brand for the Vancouver Canucks, but it wouldn't be a good move. To me, it feels like what the Canucks used to do under Jim Benning was pay way too much for a fourth line and pay quite a bit for a backup goalie, right?
Yep.
You look at who'd they have? Was it last year? Year before? Who was that guy? Who was the backup goalie? It's a pretty big name.
Halak.
That's the one I was looking for. Yeah, right. They went that route. It didn't really work, right? So then they went for the, sort of cheap guy who might perform in like a Spencer Martin. Well, that hasn't worked, right? They also then would pay too much for a fourth line. Now they're going cheaper fourth line. That's working better. So I think if you can find, a goalie who is, willing to play 28 games a year and can put up like a 902.
Yes.
And because again, you think about a 902 versus an 870 in 28 games over the season. That's probably like 8 to 10 points. Like that's probably 4 wins.
Yes.
That's huge, right? We're talking about if this team's trying to make the playoffs at 97 points compared to 89, That's a big jump, right?
Yep.
You look at the Canucks goaltending all year. If they had a healthy Thatcher Demko all year, this team probably is in the hunt. So that's the tough part. Or not necessarily a healthy Demko, but a top tier Demko, right? Normal Thatcher Demko.
Normal Demko.
Yeah, like current Demko even. Then yeah, this team's probably in the hunt. But they didn't have that, and they weren't in the hunt. So, if you got to spend a couple $1 million off the cap and shed something somewhere, right? Shed a winger where they're paying a lot of money to, like in Anthony Beauvillier or a Connor Garland, and have a goalie that's gonna, put up some better numbers. Maybe that helps.
And Bruce saying that guys like Swayman, Riddich, Jones are going to be available. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, don't mind Swayman. I'd have to do. I heard the overall though, the free agent market, especially because a lot of these guys like Larkin and Horvat, they've been re-signed already. Even JT Miller. I heard that the free agent market is not going to be that good this summer, comparatively speaking.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked into it. Again, it doesn't need to be great, right?
Yeah.
For free agent goaltenders, like you need a mid tier. That's all you need.
Yes. Yep. I agree with you. I'm instead of typing, I'll just say it. Yeah. Botch Guy, welcome, by the way. Botch Guy does amazing wrestling videos. Parker was the one who actually had the Sony ZV-1 first. And I said to him exactly what you said to me. What camera is that? And then Parker told me that he had the ZV-1. So then, of course, Copycat League, I went out and bought the same camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good wrestling this last week. As I was Clay and I were talking beforehand. First time I've watched wrestling.
Yeah, you got to go watch Botch Guy's channel. He'll break it down for you good.
Oh, I got to watch WrestleMania Night 2 first, apparently. It's a weird spot for the Canucks, really, going into next year. And we've got 5 months to kill, 20 Canucks After Dark episodes to kill, talking about it. So let's
we may have
some material.
Yeah, we're gonna have to spread out. Maybe the shows don't go for a full hour because I don't know if a show in the third week of July is gonna do much numbers. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, they usually don't, to be completely honest. So we'll figure something out. But
we will. We always do.
Any other topics you want to cover here? 10:58. 2 more minutes. Can we get to the end?
250. Well, yeah, I think what we should do is we tell everyone what's going to happen next week because that will probably take about a minute to explain anyways.
Right. Next week, Clay has double booked us.
Yes.
Because, he doesn't care about Canucks After Dark.
Oh, hey.
We all do. No, obviously, Clay has to do Game Over Vancouver next week, 7:30 puck drop. So that game will end around 10 o'clock. So his show will start around 10:15.
Yes.
I will be joining that. So Canucks After Dark, little hiatus next week, potentially. We might figure something else out. But instead, go over to SDPN on YouTube and find Game Over Vancouver that night after it's Canucks and Kings, right? 7:30?
Correct. Yeah, so you'll still get Parker, you'll still get me, but it won't be on this channel. We'll maybe put something on the community tab to remind you. We're going to do Game Over Vancouver, which actually, generally, the shows are a lot smaller than this, but it's a wonderful chance. I want to, how do I say this without sound like, no, I want to show Parker. I won't use the other word. I want to show Parker to other people that come to those streams, and at the same time, rely on your loyal viewership and know that we'll be back the week after for sure.
Mm-hmm. And we also want to show SDPN the numbers that we get when we team up.
That's true. So everyone come over next week.
Come over.
Yes.
Make us look good. That's really the point. But yeah, we'll be taking that on next week, and it should be a good time.
There you go.
I have to watch a Canucks game next Monday.
Yeah, well, you haven't watched it in 3 months, so you can at least do one for me.
I've watched every single goal the Canucks have scored. All right.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
So, Canucks After Dark, nothing next week, but we are going to bring Canucks After Dark to Game Over Vancouver. We'll tweet out the links next week. And if you want, if you're not sick of Canucks talk, I'll be doing a quicker stream tonight in about 15 minutes. So you're welcome to join me there. Parker, what are you up to this week? Do you want to do your predictions for the next 3 games for the Canucks?
Sure. What are the next 3 games? I don't have them in front of me.
We got some Seattle tomorrow. We got some Chicago on Thursday, and we have the big Canucks Calgary game on Saturday.
And then Canucks Kings on Monday. It's technically a 4-game week for us to predict.
4-gamer.
I am predicting a loss to Seattle. Actually, have the Canucks ever lost to Seattle?
Yeah,
that
recently they
happen?
have now. Yeah,
Okay.
they have now. Yeah.
So a loss to Seattle, a win over Chicago, a win over the Flames to miss the playoffs, and a loss to the LA Kings. I'm going to go with a little 2-2.
I'm going to go 2-1-1. So same as you, same number of wins. Yep. 2-1-1.
Sounds good. So, folks, before we go, I want to give a shout out to Luke, who recognized me at softball today.
Sweet.
So shout out to you. And also, if you missed any part of the show, feel free to rewind back to the beginning. You can follow me at ParkersPucks on Twitter and YouTube, at Canuck Clay at Twitter and on YouTube. Like Clay said, he'll be live in about 14 minutes at this point on his own channel to do a little segment. And like we said, next week, maybe no Canucks After Dark. We'll figure something out potentially, but we will be on Game Over Vancouver on the SDPN YouTube channel Monday night around 10:15. So the time you guys are used to, make sure you're subscribed over there. Turn those notifications on. Clay, any parting words this fine evening?
Nice to see you and nice to see everyone in here. Some new faces, some familiar faces, and hold our head up, Canucks fans. The season is almost over.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, it will be nice to be free of of the pain for the summer at the very least. All right, I think that's it. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next Monday.